You can read a book on peace, like say like the Encyclopedia of Peace. If you finish that book, it doesn't mean that you found peace. So you've got to get out of the book and do the thing. One of the beautiful things that we learn in the meditation journey is that consciousness is not just rational thinking. I think, therefore I am. Since I'm hearing thoughts in my own head, that means I'm here, conscious and existing. But then in meditation, it's like, yeah, we can rub our fingertips together. We can listen to the sounds of the birds. We can be feeling our heartbeat. And all of that is experience arising in consciousness. I talk about the journey of waking up in 3 sentences. To hurt is to be human. Balance is possible. Practice is the path.
Raw, uncut, and unapologetic. Welcome to Men Talking Mindfulness.
All right, today we're hiking into the Scottish wilds, philosophically and literally, with filmmaker and Tai Chi teacher George Thompson, the mind behind The Subtle Art of Losing Yourself, the film. George blends Eastern wisdom with mud-on-your-boots adventure to ask a giant question. Who are we when we stop gripping so hard? His films have reached millions with a growing community of over 320,000 on YouTube, and this project turns the Highlands into a mirror for the mind. Strap your boots, we're going off trail. Welcome, George. Happy to have you.
Amazing, John. Beautiful to be with you.
Thank you. And we're definitely excited, or I am excited. Normally I have my co-host Will here with me, and he's sad that he's missing it, but we are excited to have you on the show. And like I said, before we hit record, we're just going to do a 1 breath grounding practice for the 2 of us and then for our audience. So for the 2 of us and our audience, go ahead and get comfortable, whatever that looks like for you. And if that includes closing your eyes, if that's available to you, then I invite you to do so. Otherwise, just continue doing what you're doing. And let's just begin by emptying our lungs with a big giant exhale, bringing our navel to our spine and holding empty, just noticing what that feels like, that empty feeling. And then a nice, long, slow, deep breath in from the belly all the way into the chest, holding full. Notice what that feels like and release. Release, and bring some movement back to your body. Maybe rolling your neck, rolling your shoulders, and opening your eyes. And let's get into this. So I watched George's film this morning. My co-host Will, he had watched it before. I'd planned on watching it before, but I've got 3 young kids, and sometimes life gets away from me. And now I really wish that I'd watched it before, and I'm going to go back and watch it multiple times. So George, beautiful film. Visually, and I love the music. It's beautiful emotionally, and I found myself several times just getting chills because of the scenery and the music, and then what it was you were saying, the messages that you were bringing in, as it felt really like you were speaking directly to me at times. So again, great work.
Thank you.
Now, that said, what's the promise of the film? If you had to boil it down to 1 sentence, what's the promise of the film?
Balance is possible.
I love that. And then if my audience was to watch it tonight, what changes would they be expecting, or could they be expecting in themselves maybe tomorrow morning?
The film starts out saying, all the great teachers of history taught know thyself. They said, when we truly understand who we are, we gain wisdom. And with wisdom, then peace and balance and joy and ease is possible. So the journey is asking that question, who are we? Who are we really? Beneath the story, beneath the normal ideas of who we are. And I guess since your dear audience and community are listening to this, they want to learn about themselves, and they want to find more peace and more ease and more skill to lead their lives. And we have wanted that for thousands of years. And the good news is that there are powerful ideas and practices to help us gain clarity as to how we truly work, the nature of our consciousness, our hearts, our minds, our place in the cosmos. And with that clarity, then it really has been my experience that life has become more joyful and balance is possible.
Beautiful. Now, you mentioned nature there, and the very first scene is you out in the snow,
Minus 15, my toes freezing. The
Yes,
cameraman,
you even said that.
the cameraman didn't, like, he needed to use the camera without any gloves, and it was so cold that his fingers turned into ice sausages.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow. That sounds miserable, but also you really get in touch with yourself there, right? With that nature as a teacher, you know, what did the Scottish winter wilderness show you about the human mind that maybe a classroom couldn't?
A little bit about my journey. I've studied Taoist philosophy in China, and I like to say I'm exploring Tao without the ism. What is Tao? Yeah. So the isms is where extremism comes. So I like to explore Tao without the ism. Tao literally translates as the way or the path, and it refers to the ways of nature. So it can be the ways of the cosmos, or it can be the way of John, the way of George, the way of our audience, the way through our lives. And the Taoists, they were really passionate about observing. That was their mode of discovery, observation, observing the ways and patterns of nature. And through that embodied observation, instead of just intellectual, rational, cognitive understanding, but an embodied understanding, then that's when we find wisdom. Because wisdom is knowledge applied, and necessarily then has to be embodied, because it's how do we show up in the world? How do we respond in this moment? That's what wisdom is. So being in the mountains of Scotland, I have had the privilege of spending a few winters there, and I'm always struck, just by, it's harsh, it's cold and wet.
It looks harsh.
And stunning in that harshness.
Sure.
And then I look at the animals who are surviving out there, and like reindeer and snow hares and ptarmigan, which is a little white chicken. And, they have their lives, family and snuggling together for warmth, hunting, running away from potential predators, living their lives. And I'm struck, many things that it's taught me, but the resilience of humanity and nature, and the connection of humanity to nature. I saw a lot of myself in them, my tendency for fear, my tendency to want to cuddle up on a cold night. And it connected me to the sense of belonging to this planet.
Have you read The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter?
I haven't.
It's there's a lot of parallels between the two. He goes up into the wilderness in Alaska, and I want to say he spends 30 days out there, and he learns a lot of the same lessons that you learned. It's really interesting to see the parallels. Anyhow, that's not what this is about. So the Taoism, I love the Tao without the ism, and that was actually going to be my next question: is how, from Tai Chi to getting out there on the trails, and how Taoism shaped the way that you design this journey, and then not just the journey itself, but how you tell the story about the journey. Can you tell us a little bit more? I mean, I know you covered a little bit of that in the last question, but if you could tell us how you went from, well, first, how did you get into Tai Chi? I mean, I watched the film, so I know a little bit, but if you could tell a little bit about that, not without giving the, spoiler alerts.
Sure. Yeah, and I guess like a general principle of how do we learn and how do we embody these teachings? Because you can read a book on peace, like the Encyclopedia of Peace, every single stage needed to find peace. And yet that if you finish that book, it doesn't mean that you've found peace, just knowing how to do it. It's like reading a book on how to make bread. Like you can read every single stage of how to make bread, but you've got to go make the bread, right? So you've got to get out the book and do the thing. And that doing of the thing involves not doing and letting go. We can talk about that paradox. Yeah, the general principle then of learning for me is like I always read notes, and I'm just reinterpreting these timeless teachings. It's not new, and it's really, what is nature? What is our place in this cosmos? How do I relate? How do I find peace? These are fundamental questions that we've always been asking as human beings. And yet, the film is told through, me as a British person living in the 21st century, and with my language and experience. So I'm always fascinated when I am writing that, I read other people's notes, and then I structure my own notes. I begin to structure what I think is something that makes sense. And then I go out and I walk in nature and I begin to speak out in my own words. And I'm always shocked at how clumsy and unskillful I am at that stage. Like, I don't really understand this. I don't understand it. And so it's only when I speak it out in my own words, and it takes time, and, you know, I will be with a tree and see what the tree wants to tell me about this little section that I'm working on. Or I sit in stillness, and then I'm always, and I'm sure you've experienced it as well, it's like you're in the shower in emptiness, and then the eureka idea comes, or you're in your meditation and the idea comes. And sometimes like whole paragraphs of what eventually is in the film would just flow through, and I would have my voice recorder on and just allow the whole thing to come out in one take, and that's the final take.
Beautiful. I was wondering about that, how many takes it took, because you're very good on camera. You know, it doesn't look as though you have a script and you just roll, and there's, very well articulated. I was like, I wonder how many takes that took, but wow, well done.
and yeah, when things are spoken from the heart, it's not reciting. And there's a parallel with Tai Chi. So yeah, Tai Chi is a beautiful moving meditation from China. And like Tai Chi, like yoga, you're moving with the breath, but it comes from the martial art culture. So you've got open hips, you're kind of dropping into a horse stance, and then you're moving in a very graceful, beautiful way.
Yeah, I mean, that looks beautiful right there, what you just did. For those who are not watching but listening, I mean, George is moving. It looks like water. I mean, just flowing.
Yeah, and you never repeat a Tai Chi move, because
really,
you know, well, because we are always different in every moment.
Oh,
the move is slightly different. I'm a different human being, and so when it comes from presence, we're not repeating. You know, if I'm like artificially forcing the move, then I'm repeating it. And it's the same thing with, say, okay, I'm making a film, and maybe that's not that accessible to everyday experience. But okay, say there's a challenging conversation that you maybe have with a loved one, and you've been putting it off for ages, and you've decided to actually write down what you want to say so that you have that clarity. Now, if you're to sometimes actually reading it is when you're with them is really helpful, because, you know, it's quite a stressful situation. It's like, okay, I want to get through this. But then it also can be, okay, I've written this and I really know what I think now. And now I'm going to speak from the heart. And maybe the words will be different from that original intention. So yeah, dropping in. It's like, can I speak from that place of presence?
With that presence, let's talk about the inner narrator, right? Stuff that you didn't necessarily say on the film, but maybe was running through your head when you're out there. What story, self-story, were you carrying into this film, and maybe how did it sabotage you in ways? What did you let go of when you were out there? And maybe how do you catch that story in the act and then let it go?
Yeah, no, even today I was out preparing a video and working on a 45-minute mini documentary, an introduction to Taoism. Yeah, I can notice parts of me going like, oh, I'm tired, or like, how can I still take so long at this process? And, you know, like that didn't make any sense. And you know, it's just like, there's like an inner evaluator that can be like, George, you didn't do that very well. And it's just,
I feel it. I'm probably going through that story right now as the host of this podcast. I'm like, oh man, I'm not doing this very well. But I hear you.
Really, you know, and it's welcoming that voice. It's like, cool, okay. It's like making friends with that voice. And for me, it's like being playful with that voice. It's like, I know it. I've been through the loop enough times now that I know that I will complete this, and it's going to be fine. And that little voice can be like, well, you know, maybe not this time. So it's just to become aware of our patterns, and, you know, how that voice shows up for you will be different than it does for me. And yeah, maybe another example is George, you share meditation. You should be perfectly at peace. Oh, you're a little bit anxious. You've been 8 years into this.
My oldest daughter, so I've got 3 young kids, an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, and 4-year-old. And my 8-year-old has asked me, Dad, what do you do for a living? And I tell her, I teach people to be calm. And she's called me out. She's like, well, that's ironic, because you're not always calm. Well, just because I teach it doesn't mean that I practice it all the time. It's not in my DNA, but I do try my hardest, and I do have some tricks and tools at my disposal. But yeah, I hear you. Yeah. I get that quite often.
And perfection is punishing. Yeah. So the part of me who is my perfectionist, I call the taskmaster, who I found in my therapy. He's a samurai, immaculate clothing, meditates perfectly 2 hours a day, perfectly vegan, never stressed. He's basically like the Buddha. And then when floppy, flawed George shows up in his everyday life, it's like, taskmaster's not happy, you know. And I honor that part. It's helped me take a lot of action. It's my activist, and, you know, it helps me, you know, have discipline. I do have a lot of discipline. But it's also like it's got some like military sergeant energy that has come from my childhood, and I've formed a new relationship with it. I've met it, and this is the power of parts work, is the presence of my mindfulness, is to say, hey, I can notice this pattern now, and I don't need to just immediately go into the dance of either being really harsh or fighting the harshness. I can say, hey, taskmaster, I know you're trying to get me to finish this video really quickly, or maybe you're being more reactive with the kids because you're under-resourced and you should be better. Like, whatever the story is, it's like, cool, I really get you want me to have high standards, and I really love that. But could you give me the grace of just a bit of space right now because I'm tired, or, you know, just I trust myself. And the beautiful thing is we can dialogue with our parts like that.
I love that. I don't know if you're familiar with the internal family system of, I see you nodding.
I love it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've gone through multiple internal family system therapy sessions, and we've had several internal family system teachers and therapists on the show. And it's really powerful when you can kind of break the internal narrative down into multiple characters that do have that dialogue. So I love that you have that.
Yeah, I've trained in it, and in my coaching, I do it, and it's been powerful in my own journey as well.
Now I want to shift a little bit to just some of the practicality that was, or I guess the tactical level stuff for the film. I just mentioned now I love how the film starts in the snow, and then it transitions into Descartes and his belief that only humans had minds and feelings, while all other beings were this kind of soulless thing that was on automatic. And I'm going to botch your quote, but you said something to the effect of leaving us as the only rational beings in the universe and giving us feelings of isolation, that we are this blip of intelligence facing an otherwise not intelligent automatic universe. What does treating nature as separate from us, how does that backfire? And not just backfire for the practicality of it, but for mental health and for the planet?
Powerful question. Maybe to ground firstly in our own experience, and there is some intuition in these ideas. So, you know, before I started this meditation journey, I was like most people, living in my head. And, you know, I tried to be healthy and ran, but I really treated my body as a machine. It's like, okay, I need to eat well and to be healthy. But I was this little voice in my head, and I didn't really realize that I could come into my body, I could rest there, and I wasn't just a little voice in my head, that I was embodied awareness. And one of the beautiful things that we learn in the meditation journey is that consciousness is not just rational thinking. I think, therefore I am, one of the most famous lines in philosophy. And yes, the idea like, well, since I'm hearing thoughts in my own head, that means I'm here, conscious and existing. But then in meditation, it's like, yeah, we can rub our fingertips together. We can listen to the sounds of the birds. We can be feeling our heartbeat. And all of that is experience arising in consciousness. So instead of I think, therefore I am, how about I feel, therefore I am? Now, if we acknowledge that about our own experience, and then we look at the millions of other species on our planet, and the fact that we come from the same evolutionary tree, and they have a range of wildly different ways of experiencing their lives. So, you know, Elephants, we talk about in the film, have been observed when one of their troop dies, that the elephants will, in silence, go to the body repeatedly over days, like the elephants one by one, just spending time and presence, maybe dragging their trunk across the body, and then eventually the troop leave this dead carcass of their loved one. The mourning, exactly, and the elephant mourning will be different from our mourning, but it will be familiar. That is just one example of countless, just infinite examples of how animals experience their lives. And maybe we could say plants as well, which we could keep exploring. But let's say just as a minimum case for animals for now, then it just blindingly obviously is the case that we have come from nature. We haven't just been parachuted here, alien visitors in an otherwise unintelligent automatic universe where your dog is a robot, a flesh robot, but you are a conscious being. It's just like it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't. And as an animal lover myself, and I've got my dogs outside the door here, got horses, cats. I can't imagine thinking of them in that way. They are part of the family, right? I get that. I love that connection.
And isn't it fascinating how the storytelling mind, so it's the same experience, like being with a dog, Descartes with a dog, and you with your dog. And like for you, it's like you feel the richness and the personality of your dog, which is different from your other dog. They're all unique. Whereas for Descartes, it's like, well, this is an automatic biological machine. And he even did experiments cutting up live dogs. And he said, ignore the screams of their apparent agony because they're just the creakings of the machine.
That broke my heart when you said that part in the film. You just mentioned something about rubbing the fingers. And it's super cool to see you actually kind of running the viewers of the film through some basic practices. Talked about that before I hit record. One of them is rubbing your fingers. And then you run them through meditation. Can you run us through maybe some of these micro practices? So for the listeners of the show, maybe they don't happen to watch the film, but maybe they can try some of these micro practices during their next walk, their commute, some maybe tough conversation. Is anything that would be available to them?
Yeah. So one powerful practice, and we could just do one, is the idea of dual awareness. So this whole journey is about coming out of just the thinking mind and to open up into more spaciousness, to realize that we're not just our thoughts, that we are the embodied awareness that contains and embraces all experience. Every thought, every sensation, every emotion has arisen in consciousness. And so a beautiful practice called dual awareness is to be present with me and you in conversation now, or maybe our listeners are cooking, or maybe they've got a conversation which is challenging coming up. And the invitation is right now is to just see if you can bring awareness to your belly, just below the belly button, which for the Taoists is called the dantian. And this is the center of the body. If I had a really strong finger, I could balance you there. So this is a really important point for the Taoists. And to feel the movement of the air, the movement of the belly. And then also to have a dual awareness for me and you in conversation, maybe with a loved one as well. And the ability to hold both of those things at the same time. And as we ground our awareness to have that anchor, we then find that spaciousness more easily. Because then when the challenge comes, we've already been training our awareness to be grounded in the body. And so we're more sensitive to, say, rising tension or anxiety. We heed those signals more quickly. And so then we find our power and our resilience more easily.
Love it. Yeah, I felt relaxed just doing that. You've got a great voice for this stuff, man. So what about the actual filming? Maybe maybe you could share some of the biggest curveballs that were thrown at you. I know you just talked about your cameraman not having gloves, so the weather, the gear, the kit, the safety, maybe even your own morale. What surprised you, and maybe what scenes almost didn't happen because of some curveball that was thrown at you?
Yeah, probably the biggest one was had a plan of going to a bothy, which is a little mountain hut deep in the mountains, stunning bothy, like deep in the valley. And yeah, the Cairngorms, the mountains are made from glaciers. And so there's this beautiful, like really long valleys, like 26 miles long. There is a marathon that runs through it. And there's a bothy halfway in the middle. And I calculated, okay, it's going to be 10 hours, but I didn't include the snow. And so we did about 10 hours of walking and we're halfway.
Oh my goodness.
Like my cameraman was like, I didn't sign up for this. This is like, we're having like a real heart to heart. I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like I've really cooked this one. And we were like, right, well, we've got an emergency tent. Should we do that? And I kind of was pushing it for a little bit. I was like, look, because I was a little bit faster than my cameraman, and I was like, come on, we can do this. We can push it. And eventually, yeah, we were like kind of hugging, just like, we need to turn back, and it's -10. It's like we're covered in snow. And it's like, the reason it took so long is because every step would go to over the knee in snow. And so it's just like wading and wading and wading in snow. And then, yeah, eventually, yeah, it was a moment of humility for me.
I bet.
Yeah, just like I didn't plan this properly, and I just need to surrender that plan that I had and let it go. And then, yeah, like that adaptability. Okay, cool. So this is the new reality. There's new data points that I didn't consider. I now need to work with what's here. And actually what we decided to do was to turn back, and we managed to wade until it was like 10 p.m. at night, pitch black, using the torches, and then managed to get called a friend to pick us up. And we got back into the cabin, had like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then we're back out the next morning because we only had like 3 days of light, good weather. So we're like straight back out. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening in the background.
Yeah, I imagine so. But even in that, you're probably losing your ego. You said a moment of humility, and there's probably some losing of yourself in that, right? Like not pushing on. You're like, okay, reality, we're 10 hours in, we're only halfway. Maybe we need to turn back, and then realizing maybe if you didn't, what could have happened. So there's a lot to that. One thing in today's day and age that content creators get wrapped up in doing just that. They become content machines. And with millions of views and now this big online community, 320,000. On your website, it says 250,000. But when I looked at YouTube this morning, it was over 320. How do you keep from becoming just that content creator and protect the depth that is very apparent over, chasing those likes, chasing those dopamine hits?
Yeah, and I navigate that. And that was the start of my journey. Like, I was making YouTube videos that I thought were good. Nobody was watching them. I created my value as a human being with the number of views I was getting. I wasn't getting any views, therefore I wasn't valuable. And that was really when I descended into the mental health crisis and anxiety that then started my journey, because I was like, nothing's changed really except from making some videos, and I'm in a mental health crisis now. So to find myself, who I am, independent of what I do. And so that's really the losing yourself journey. It's like, okay, I am embodied awareness, and all of these stories of lack I create for myself, and I don't need to identify with them. I can let them go, and to nourish and resource myself in presence every day. I have 11 team members and 11 salaries to pay, and four family members each. There's like 40 people that depend on me making payroll every first of the month. And that continues to be a challenge, partly because, we're growing, and, we've got this mission, balance is possible, to inspire balance for people and planet. And we're deeply passionate about that. And yeah, it's still, like for me as a leader, and all of us as the leader of our own families and worlds and lives, is, like, how do we navigate taking action in this world of capitalism and money while also holding onto our center and to ground ourselves. And so, yeah, it's something that I continue to work with. But really, for me, if I ground myself in service, ground myself in a mission, ground myself in a deeper why, it no longer becomes about the dopamine. It becomes about service and reaching people. So I am passionate about understanding social media and the algorithms, because there's so much junk out there. And I do believe in the ideas that, I'm one of countless generations sharing these teachings. It's not my ideas, but I'm deeply passionate about sharing them. And so then, how do I become more skillful at sharing this message on social media?
And that message being shared on social media, have there been any reactions from audience that have watched it or maybe just interacted with some of your social media? Any reactions that maybe have changed your perception of your own message, your own understanding of the message that you relayed? Anything there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's always a co-creation, and that's what I do love about YouTube, is that it's not just like right here I'm talking at you, I'm talking with you. And I hold weekly sessions with the community, and so I get to learn more about what will serve them. And I'm very grateful for the comments, but to see the faces of the people that I serve and with, it deepens it for me. So one example, I think I love philosophy. I love the intellectual stuff. And I think the feedback I've been getting now is let's just ground it in the body, in the practice. And this is, that regular support. I'm passionate about being a bridge between the East and the West and bringing these teachings in a fun and accessible way, and to drop regularly into practice with the community. That's some of the signals that I've been getting. And there's a beautiful co-creation that.
The flip side of that coin, with your practicing this presence and managing your inner critic, and I'm kind of going off my planned questions here, but just off of what you just talked about. What about critics, the ones who maybe see the negative side or think that what you're talking about is off, or they don't agree? How do you keep that from affecting your inner narrative?
Yeah, I'm a recovering people pleaser. No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh my gosh, we've had him on our show.
I love that. Love that. Yeah. So conflict averse for reasons from my growing up in warring parents, middle child, as the mediator, stay small, be the kind of the therapist and help everyone stay calm. And so then I'd get triggered, have people arguing and not wanting to create conflict, and that's still alive in me. I feel very grateful that the community that I've built, I trust my love is one of my affirmations. I do care. I have a lot of love for humanity and life, and I feel sincere in my own intention. And I trust my love is a really beautiful release, because it's like, okay, I trust my love. I'm doing enough, and it's okay that people disagree. And even so some of the critics might be like, George, you're making money, and you're doing it for yourself and ego. And I really welcome I welcome people's opinions. It's because I know myself, and I'm also not totally closed off to people's feedback. But sometimes it's like I don't like you is really saying I have a different value set to you. Mm-hmm. And then that's when I can be like, okay, that's fine. You absolutely can and should have a different value set to me. That's not my problem. And I really celebrate that. Like, the world would be a very dull place if we all had the single hymn sheet to sing from. So to welcome that diversity, but then really to know thyself, I comes with age. I'm still youngish, but I feel more and more grounded in I have my values, I care, I trust my love, and that helps me deal with criticism. Yeah,
that's a mature way to do it. In this day and age, there's a lot of opportunities to not be mature about it and not be at peace. Hey, people have different opinions, so I love that you have that. If listeners had 7 days to experiment with some of your teachings, what would be your simple plan for them to try to implement? And maybe that's a loaded question. Maybe there's no simple plan, but what would you recommend?
I love that question. I love the word experiment. Experiment is a great, easy thing, because it's like, okay, am I going to meditate every day for the rest of my life? That's way too overwhelming. But 7 days as an experiment, okay, I could do that. It's like with sobriety and the 12 steps, you're not giving up your addiction forever. You're giving it up today. You're giving it up now. And then one day at a time, a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. Then that's how beautiful change can be possible. So the simple practice that I share is MMA. And it's not mixed martial arts. It is, it is move, meditate, affirm. So to move, and this is in the morning, it's such a powerful, beautiful time, is to commit to a daily morning practice. Don't make your practice so big that you don't do it. My mantras. So it can be super small. But MMA, so you move first thing, shaking the body, some qigong, some hip openers. Yeah. And then seated practice, I still really love seated meditation, to sit in presence, watching the breath, then opening up into choiceless awareness, whatever meditation you like to do. And then affirmations. I used to be, particularly as a British person, we would see you lovely Americans going like, you can do anything, be a millionaire. And like the British cynicism is like, oh, you can't step into your power like that. Whereas you Americans on average are more like, yeah, let's do it. But I'm like definitely team affirmation now. And because I
love that.
It really is the technology to work with the storyteller. The storyteller is the storytelling aspect of ourself, which narrates and interprets our experience. And the storyteller has lots of different biases and techniques in order to keep us safe. Some of them skillful, some of them unskillful. So it can be that the storyteller will affirm, I'm not good at meditation. I'm not good enough. I'm flawed. I'm a fraud. Whatever the story is. And because it will repeat that from, I do a meditation session. So let's tune in to something that's real and alive. Yeah, I guess like with the financial challenges recently, I was noticing myself kind of doom scrolling for a couple of hours. Well, yeah, just like kind of in bed, and the taskmaster's like, get out of bed, come on, you can do more. And what I'm better at now is just noticing, okay, I don't need to create a story about me not being good enough, being a fraud or whatever. Just, okay, I'm going to doom scroll for these 2 hours. This will move. This will change. But if in those stimuli of challenging experiences, the affirmation becomes the story of, yeah, I'm not good enough, I'm a fraud, I'm a failure, whatever the story is, that is the affirmation. So then what in our practice, if we can consciously choose an affirmation that brings in a fresh energy, an empowering energy. So I am enough just as I am. I trust my love with compassion, humility, moderation, integrity. I serve fearlessly. And I say that every morning, and I have this big, like, open-chested action. Then I am calling in that energy every single morning. And because our consciousness cannot distinguish between that which is imagined and that which happens outside of us, we are creating neural pathways of that new energy being affirmed as part of our reality. And so then that energy can help us more and more easily through our lives.
I love that. Was it, I serve fearlessly? Is that it?
Yeah, with compassion, humility, moderation, integrity, I serve fearlessly.
I love that. Although I'll be honest, I don't serve fearlessly. I serve with a lot of fear every single day, but I jump into it anyway.
Yes. And that's where the parts are really supportive, because like, okay, there's a part of me that holds the fear, and actually what I'm speaking to is this part that is fearless, and both coexist. So like I'm affirming that, like, yeah, I'm going to step into my power, my compassionate power. And it's okay that the fear is also there, but I'm building this part up and strengthening it.
So you spent this time in the wilderness you've clearly done a lot of work outside of your time in the wilderness, but in the film, you go out, spend this time in the wilderness to lose yourself. For those who don't have the opportunity to go out into the wilderness, maybe they're living in a city, the concrete jungle, how can they attain the same level of insight, or at least close to the same level, without the mountain, without the snow, without the 10 hours of hiking in the snow, kind of like micro awe moments?
Micro awe moments. I love that. Yeah. I mean, if we could only find peace and balance through going to faraway mountains and monasteries, then it wouldn't be a very sustainable or accessible way of waking up. And I talk about the spiritual journey not being one from going from here to there, here where we are, there where we think we should be. Instead, the journey is going from there where we think we should be to here where we are. So it's really the embrace. Tree trunk hugging is a beautiful move in Tai Chi and Qigong. It's like you've got a big, beautiful tree in your midst, and there's a smile on the face, and it's okay, just here. Embracing just here. So that's the energy. That's the energy that we're building, is the embrace, the meeting of all parts, all experience, all challenge. And so then that's the quality of presence. And then, okay, well, how do we bring more of that presence into our lives? This is when then practice comes in. So I talk about the journey of waking up in 3 sentences. To hurt is to be human. Balance is possible. Practice is the path. So there's pain as part of life. Balance is possible. There is the potential that we can meet all moments, all challenge with a balanced mind. But also not to put pressure on that, because practice is the path. Life is a almost inevitable journey of falling over, picking ourselves back up, falling over, picking ourselves back up.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the micro adventures. I love the micro awe. It's like, can you just go to a park and just spend an hour in silence in a park? Hug a tree for 5 minutes. Let's see what comes up. Notice the self-consciousness of, people are going to look at me hugging this tree. Breathe into it. Breathe down to the belly. Get your belly onto the tree and really enjoy the feeling of silliness, and see if you can drop deeper into presence with this being that shares 60% of our genes and our DNA.
That blew me away when you talked about that. When you pulled the celery out of your backpack, I think you mentioned the 50% DNA with a stalk of celery. Wow.
Popcorn, you have popcorn at a cinema. 50% of the genes that we have in our DNA, popcorn has as well. All of the
that's just mind-blowing.
Just baffling, isn't it? Just one example of what that actually means is the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondria. We have that, plants have that. So plants are photosynthesizers, they get their energy from the sun to create glucose, but then the mitochondria then uses the glucose to create ATP, which is then the energy that powers all of the action happening within the cells. We, instead of having photosynthesis, we eat the plants and we steal their glucose, which then the mitochondria transforms into ATP, which then powers our cells. So it's the same process.
Adenosine triphosphate, right?
There we go. I don't know it well enough.
I think that's it.
Yeah. So just our connection, every single cell, 36 trillion cells that makes us up. So much of the basic building blocks are found throughout the whole of the plant and animal kingdom.
Yeah, that kind of baffles me. So my kids watch these videos all the time that shows the size of the moon, and then it shows the size of the Earth, and then it shows the size of the other planets, and then the size of the sun, and then these other superstars, and then the size of the universe. And my head starts to hurt when I try to think about the size of the universe. I mean, it's infinite, right? And then this is going the other way, thinking down, and you're like, wow, when you really break things down into the smallest pieces, we're all the same. We're all dust.
Stardust that woke up.
Yeah, exactly.
And a Taoist would say, stop asking why, start saying wow.
Yeah, and that's the micro all there. I took my 3 kids on a hike here. So I live in Colorado. There's some trails not far from my house with some beautiful trees. And, they're kids, young kids, and they're like, well, I'm bored. And I'm like, okay, let's just stop. I want you to come over here and I want you to put your hand on this tree. And they all came over, put their hand on this tree. And my oldest is like, what are we doing? I was like, I want you to just feel the bark underneath your hand. Like, feel all the different pieces of it. Okay, now slowly pull your hand away and just keep one finger on that bark. And what did it take to make that specific little piece of bark appear, to exist right here and right now? And I could see their tiny minds exploding. but it was also an aha moment for them. They're like, oh, wow, everything around here is connected. You're right. You were talking about the duality before, and there's a duality mindset. Okay, everything is other than me, but then there's also oneness, right? So the trees, and for those who are listening, they're probably like, John has really turned into a major hippie here, but maybe at heart,
scientific truth. Yeah,
it's scientific truth. Exactly.
Yeah, just quickly on that, because I mean, these are really deep points that you're raising, and the Taoists love exploring this. So yeah, the origin story of the universe for the Taoists is, there's the Tao, we said the way of nature. So it's the mystery that predates all gods and deities and science and religion and even humanity. The mysterious nothing that created the magnificent something. You know, forced to call it something, we call it the Tao. It's just a label. So there's the Tao. The Tao gives birth to one, so to formless form, so like energy, a mass, but it's undifferentiated. Then the one gives birth to two, so yin and yang, or differentiation, duality, contrast, foreground, background, light, dark, sun, moon, male, female. Then the two gives birth to three, so male, female give birth to children. And then the three gives birth to the 10,000 things, all the myriad things that we see in the world. So Tao gives birth to one, one to two, two to three, three to the 10,000 things. So with that awareness, we can see the apparent duality and the paradoxical unity. So the apparent duality of like, okay, you know, I can't hear your thoughts, I can't feel your feelings. There is a separation in our experience. So apparent duality, me, you. But there's a paradoxical unity, which is that, yeah, we're stardust that woke up. You know, the thought of me being separate from you is created by the firing of billions of neurons, and the atoms of which were forged in the furnace of a fusion star billions of years ago. And all of those atoms and stardust coalesced into this very complex being. And the emergent property of that is thoughts of separation. So really, there is only oneness, there is only connection, and there is differentiation, but within a greater unity and connection.
Yeah, it's definitely a paradox, but then when you really back up and zoom out, it all makes sense. Like you said, it's scientifically proved. For someone who's listening, maybe they're having a tough day. I asked you at the beginning, for the film, if you boiled it down to one sentence, what would you say? Well, now for someone who's listening and having a tough day, maybe what's the one sentence that you want kind of bouncing around in their head after the credits roll, after the credits of the movie roll, or maybe after we finish talking?
No, just here is just okay. Just here is just okay. Yeah, we can put so much pressure on ourselves to be more, do more, achieve more, be more peaceful, be more skillful. And can we give ourselves the grace to be where we are, to embrace where we are? And then from that place of allowing, then we get out our own way, and then growth is possible. And can we enjoy the ride? Can't stop the waves, but we can learn to surf.
Heard that one, and it's so true. I've mentioned this a bunch of times on the show. Have you read the book or seen the movie, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse?
I know the book, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And a lot of the philosophical ideas that we're speaking about today are talked about in the book and the film. For our listeners, I cannot recommend both of those, the book and the film, highly enough. And one of them is "You Are Enough, Just the Way That You Are," which is essentially what you just said. Okay, well, George, this has been fantastic. What's the next philosophical adventure or film on your plan, your great plan?
Yeah, more films on the YouTube channel. I'm doing a 45-minute documentary about Taoism, about parts work, which I'm excited about. We have the online Tai Chi Academy if people want to support our work and also get access to Master Gu's teaching and my teaching. I hold retreats and do coaching. So yeah, lots moving.
And where do they find that?
Balanceispossible.com, and that will have all of the links.
There you go. I mean, I guess that's why the sentence is "balance is possible," right?
There we go.
So,
got the t-shirt.
Fantastic, George. Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you very much for being here with us today, or with me today. I very much appreciate it. And I know that our listeners got something from it. I got something from it. And I'm going to go back and rewatch the film again in not such a hurry, because I did watch it in a little bit of a hurry. Just like, okay, I've got to get some notes. But fantastic work, and keep doing what you're doing. So thank you again for being here with us today. And any last comments for the audience?
Yeah, just feel you, John, and appreciate you. Like, feel your truth, and know that, like, as we show up in our truth, we serve our communities, and all of the men and humans that are listening. The truth connects, and like, can we bring our vulnerability and our realness? Like, this perfection is punishing, and it's like, here we are, humans that struggle, and that's life. And can we love where we are, and just all the love and blessings for you and your community, and gratitude for your presence.
Well, thank you, and back to you. And for our listeners, for our audience, for our community, thank you for tuning in. Please reach out to George to learn more about the film and everything else that he's working on. And until next time, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope you walk away with some new tools and insights to guide you on your life journey. New episodes are being published every week, so please join us again for some meaningful discussion. For more information, please check out mentalkingmindfulness.com.